So
All right, and we're recording.
okay, now I see
Okay.
it's on. Okay. Um, all right. Do you want to just jump into the Populi website to show it, or?
Yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, can everyone see that?
Yeah, you
Perfect.
might, you might even go one step. Well, I guess that's usually what pops up for you. The already, it would that you would go right into that it will show right your course.
Yeah, this is gonna be the landing page for a lot of folks. Yeah, it's the general dashboard, the alerts. If you want to share something like an announcement, this is with your students. This is where you're going to post it. This could be anything involving a reminder for an assignment or for an upcoming residential class. And so students will be able to see it when they log in as well, because they'll also see the dashboards, their landing page as well.
Yeah, and often I think they even get an alert when something
Mhm.
is on the dashboard. They get an alert to their email so that they can
Yes.
review it. So you could use this dashboard and bulletin board even to introduce yourself before the course starts, or to post a video, or just something introductory. And often when something is unclear and I get an email from a student, I don't know what to do with this assignment, I just post on the bulletin a general instruction or clarification.
Yeah, so the next thing down is going to be the syllabus. This has general information. You and the students, this will have the time of the residential class that will be happening throughout course. This is also where you and the students can access the syllabi. It's also available for, you can download it as well, and that should download in a PDF form. And basically everything that you get submitted onto the course map and everything is all mapped out here. It'll be all of the texts and basically a week by week breakdown of everything that's going to be covered in this. Do you have anything to add to that, Jens? Or
Yeah, basically, I mean, everything that we had in the course map, we transferred into, a full syllabus that at times people like to have the full syllabus to just see how it all breaks down and what the rules are. And of course, it's the official document of the school that will be archived in case people later need it, when they transfer courses or etc. Okay.
all right, and then so next to lessons, this is probably going to be what the students are going to be interacting with the most. So this is basically, yeah, so everything from the syllabus is then taken from that. The content from that is then broken down here. And from this, students will go in this each week. They expect time commitment, learning outcomes, the readings, of course, the activities, and then the online engagement. And then the assessments will be how the students will be able to submit their work. Is that right, Jens, on the instructor side as far as like how the submissions go?
Yeah, pretty much. So, whenever they are ready, so maybe if you just click on the first one on Sandy, then they can see how it works for the student. So usually by the time that the student has submitted, then you see that the work is in. So here, this is what the student would see. So when they prepare, a 2-page document, they can just, drop it into the file there and upload it. And then you can see it right there. You can open it right in Populi, or you can download it if you want to go into really detailed grading and editing of the paper and making remarks. But if you just want to do a quick review, there you can use annotations. And so basically you have little bubbles where you put your comments in and they can open them in the document right there. And then in addition, you have the comments on the right side. So there you can write, thank you for your paper. Was really, well written, but, please, try to adhere to APA format or whatever you want to comment. And so that you can post the comment and it will just go to the student. If you did a full, review of the paper with editing, you can drop an attachment there, and they can, download it and see the track changes on the document. And then you go to just enter grade. And here you could just say, well, this was, a good paper, 4 out of 5 points, and be done. Or you click on the little, what do you call that? The little field with all the, so you could just put in a letter grade, or you could put in the number, or you can click on the little table symbol there. This one, yes. So when you click on that, that's actually what we want you to use, because it opens the rubric that is assigned to this specific assignment. And here you can, let's say, you just want to look at, since it's a written assignment, it breaks down into different categories: development, information and conclusions, written information, organized information, and so on. And so if you think it's really great, then you could just click on the first field. So Ali, if you just move the cursor, you could click into the table. Just click on it. So that calculates and says, well, this paper was really pretty good. It was outstanding. There's absolutely nothing to criticize. And you go with that. Or you say, it was totally fulfills it, so it's commendable. If you feel that they are good, it's a good beginning, but really needs work, then it's emerging. And if it's really bad, you go with insufficient. And so if you usually we do a lot between the first and the second column, because by the time you go to the third, it's basically substandard. And we usually hope that there'll be somewhere between A's and B's, If you feel like it's kind of in the middle, and I do that a lot, that I just choose, click into the field rather at the end of the column and determine, the fraction that I want to give them. So if I say it's not 100% 75, so I'll just decide to give them 70. And, and if usually when I subtract points, I will give a little comment, you did well, but you missed, writing an abstract, or, you should use more quotation, or, something like that, or you didn't answer to the prompt to provide the clinical application. But I don't spend, a lot of time on this, because I know when you have to grade a lot of papers, and I don't even know if the students go that much into the rubric to look at it. But it helps us to see, where the cohort overall in the end, because Populi will commute everything. It shows us over the course how students do and where their weaknesses are when we differentiate. Often enough, faculty just clicks, either on A or B, and there's very little differentiation. We hope we don't want to just give them always 100%. So I hope it's usually good if there's a little differentiation. and they usually get still a pretty good grade, even if we give them a lot of the commendable. So it will just calculate it at the end. Then you click on Save Rubric, and then it will enter it into the grade. So yeah, you could do that, just Save Rubric for now. And so it sees, oh, Sandy did get an F, so not so good. And then here you would click again on Save, and then it enters it. And so when we grade timely, the result will be that they know exactly where they stand throughout the course, if they do okay or not. And so if there's no submission, I enter that too, or and it will mark it for them so that they know, hey, I still have to do it. Otherwise, I will end up with a 0 there. I think that pretty much.
If you leave it blank, does Populi kind of calculate it as though, let's say it was a 20-point assignment and it hasn't been turned in yet? Does it then calculate out of 80 or still out of 100 unless you put in a 0? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you basically, in order to calculate it accurately, you would have to put in the 0. Otherwise, it basically says, oh, let's say it's the 4th assignment, it will just calculate for the 3 assignments that were turned in. So it's helpful to put in the 0 when it's late. Okay.
Jens, I have a question too. So are you saying the difference between the rubric and using the letter grade or the number grade, you don't have to do both, or one calculates, the rubric calculates itself into the final grade, but do we have the option between?
Yeah, you could at some point, sometimes you decide, I don't really, this assignment doesn't work for a rubric. I don't want to go into that great detail, and you leave it out. So, and you just go in and say, simplify it and just give the, straight points or the letter grade. But usually when we do assign a rubric to an assignment, it helps us to get more data that we can also use for, the general calculation, whether students meet the learning and the program outcomes. And so it's usually helpful. And when you get a little more familiar with the rubric, it actually seems almost faster than having to think, about, oh, qualitatively, where do they really stand? It becomes something where you just very quickly go through it. Okay. And yeah, and then as you say, you showed it makes sense to go to the grade book from there. So if you go into the grade book, here we would see now in week 1, usually it would show that, Sandy was already graded and that the other one weren't. And so we would see. And then there's week 1 for the online engagement, the assignment that we reviewed, and then there's week 1 professionalism. So here I would just basically give a point for everyone who turned in their assignment on time. It's a really simple, I just check, and Populi will tell you when the assignment was late. So if it was like, if we have it set at 11:59 p.m., if they turned it in at 1:03, it will be marked as late. And now you could decide whether you do a subtraction or not. Usually if I see that something is just an hour or two late, or, in by 6 a.m. the next morning, I don't really feel like subtracting. And I'm like, it's still there, so no big deal. But if it's a day or two late, then I will take a little bit off the 1 point. And so usually I subtract the full point if it's like a week late. And if it's days late, I just, per day I take off like 0.2, just put in the fraction, which, and the result, I mean, in the beginning, originally we had no calculation for that. We just subtracted at times from the actual score of the assignment. But that fear felt, you have a really great written assignment that was 2 days late. It's weird to subtract, from the quality of the paper. And so we developed this professionalism scale in order to hold the students more accountable. And the result has been, especially in the new cohort, that everyone turns in their work on time. And, that it's really on rare occasion that someone needs a little bit extra time. So it has worked really well in disciplining the students.
It seems like people are just late in general. So
I
it's
know.
not fair to, the longer you're a professional, I guess, the more you are late on things. So it's.
I know. I
sort of
I battle with that all the time myself. So, but yeah. But especially this cohort, it's actually the one that Caden will have. They are usually really, really disciplined. Whereas the other cohort, the cohort F that Kevin and Paulo have, they struggle a little bit more. But I hope, I mean, that they will do okay this term. So, okay. And so if you, Ali, maybe if you can move all the way to the right on follow the little arrow on the scale so that we can go. Yes, so every assignment over the 10 weeks and everything that is graded is on this part. And then it calculates for every student where they stand in terms of the final grade. So they turned in 5 assignments, it will say percentage-wise where they are and where their grade will be. So throughout they can see, oh, I'm at the A-, maybe I want to put in a little extra work. Or, I'm now at B-. If I don't watch it, I might get a C and end up with, no credit for the course. So anything that is B-, they are fine. They will, be able to pass. But if they drop towards the C, they are in danger. And the problem is, since we are a lockstep program, if they get a C in the course, they would have to repeat the course, and they cannot, basically, they have difficulty to continue with the cohort. So they would have to redo the course as independent study or something. And the other problem is they are almost all of them receive financial aid. And if they don't, if they fail a course, their average might drop and they might lose financial aid. So that's, something that is serious for them. So we try very hard to lift them up and push them up to get their B's or A's. Okay.
So files you won't really be interacting with too much, and then for another thing of how the assignments break down, you also have this. So this is the assignments tab. This, as you determined when you're building out the course, this is how each assignment is weighted and basically the point breakdown. And another thing is, if you click on the description, it'll also take you back to that link from the lessons.
Yeah. So as an instructor, you have 2 ways, to get to the specific assignment. You can either click on assignment or you can click on lesson and find the assignment there. But, either way, it's fine. how you want to get there and how you start to grade the papers. Or maybe one thing also, when you are at the assignment page, you can just, the moment you start, you can just click on next and go through every student until you're done with all of them.
The discussions are a little bit different. So take you here first and you select it. And then, so this is where the students are going to be posting on discussions, and basically the breakdown of how the point system is also communicated to them as well. And yeah, so they can upload files if need be, but chances are they'll probably just be, yeah, typing in, and then this would fill out as the students submit their responses or their replies.
And usually we encourage them for the discussion board to just, copy the text into the comments section there, rather than uploading files, so that people, when they go into the discussion board, can read it right there and comment right there. If they upload, if they want to, sometimes they think, well, I have to upload it as a document to show that I use APA style and format. But then the difficulty is that you have to open it every time. And so I don't want to grade APA style on the discussion board, but rather have them really interact with each other and see each other's comments. There are different settings that we can use for the discussion board. Sometimes it is, you first have to do your original first post before you can see everyone else's. Or it could be open, where everyone from the beginning can read everyone else's first and then post. It depends a little bit of what you prefer for your assignment. Whether you feel like it should be open from the beginning, or it should be closed and they can only see other people's posts after they posted their original one. And then you can also say, how many comments you want them to make, if they have to comment to 1 or 2 or 3 students, or if you want them, if you want to limit how many they do, and so on. But the hope is that they post, usually they have to post by Wednesday evening for a discussion board, and then comment on it by Sundays in order to have the actual discussion going. And usually it's nice when by Sunday the instructor also participates a little bit or makes some, clarification and so on, to just to engage a little bit with the course at that point.
Can I ask a question about that? So with the settings, we should go in and change the settings based on what the assignment is, or will that already been, will you have already done that for us based on the description of the assignment?
So basically we've set up the requirements of like how, if they're to post, but as far as if you have any particular like things like that, is more based on preference. That's if you want to do, you can go in access settings and just, to post first and then yes, or if you want to set the max replies. But as far as the base of it, as far as the point breakdown and the prompt, that's all set up. Anything else, that's that's something you can add as need be, or something you can try out for a week, and you want to not apply it to another week, that's totally your prerogative.
Yeah, and Ali can help you. So if you decide, oh, I really want to make sure that, it is closed, then he can change it also for you. I think currently most are set for not closed, right? Comments?
Yeah, we usually just leave it open as the default.
Yeah.
Should we move to?
I did for the first time. It's something that we haven't used as much, but it's a different form using a peer-reviewed paper. And I did that with one of the courses and was actually really interesting and, you know, good to see how they commented on each other's paper. And in some way they were stricter with the grading than I am. So, but it's a little more complicated, you know, to set up. And so right now we are good if you just use the discussion boards.
Should we move on to conferences now?
So the other part is when the grading of the discussion board, when you get there is a little more difficult. So it's you need to click a little bit around to figure out how to easily grade it. I think if you go to the assignment page for the discussion board, yeah, if you go and then click on a name for the student. So usually what happens when you are there, in order to grade it now, it would show what Sandy had written and where Sandy responded. So then you have it both there. So you can see both whether she commented on others and whether she put out the original post. And then you can click on enter grade. And so this is what makes it kind of complicated, you know, and often, so especially if there is also a rubric assigned, it always seems to work really in a funny way. So if you click on the rubric thing, it breaks it down only for the entire post because, you know, it gives you the full 5 points. So there you can say what about the content of the initial post and then the follow-up post. And then, you know, whether they used, you know, standard English and formatting. So it's not really ideal how it's broken down, and it doesn't really break it down exactly like having the 3 points. So sometimes I decide to just use the rubric and be done with it. And sometimes I go around and don't use the rubric and rather assign the points, you know. So that's a little bit up to you, what you feel works better.
So yeah, most of these tabs should be available on your end. As said, you can either access it through, if you want to go through the assignments to access it, you can also do it that way as well. If you click on the link, then that will also take you directly to it. So
yeah, so this will show you the entire thread of all comments, all postings and comments to them. And then if you go to the individual, you see just what they submitted. And all the other comments show as, you know, hidden. So, but you can click on them and see, you know. Okay.
all right, so next thing is going to be conferences. So this is where you're going to be hosting your residential classes. One thing that I've also posted for students when they're all set up for each week this residential class, there's a little tutorial of that you can also use. It's as well of how to access it. So let's see, conferences. So it's going to, you would go to the corresponding one for the week. You would hit start conference. It's going to let me do it on top. And then, so once it's happening, then you would click join conference. And so the thing about this is the way the Zoom plugin works with Populi is once you start a class, once you end it, that's it. You can't go back into it. So if you get logged out, or if like something crashes or something, what you want to do is go back to the conferences and hit join conference again. And it'll take you back into it. You don't never want to hit end conference because that will end it as well for the students and boot everyone out. But if that does happen, the best thing to do is to use the backup conference. This will start a new one, and then you would just continue from there. And if there's anything that happens with, say, the backup conference or anything, I'm usually on call during those residential weekends. So if you have trouble or you need me to set up another conference, just send me an email and I'll log in and then set that up for you. And then you would just join once again. Yeah, so let me just end the conference. So see, as you can see, it moves into here and there's no way to get back into it unless, yeah, I go in and make a new one.
Yeah. So this happened to me, I think, twice when I had really unstable internet and I, dropped out. The nice thing is the class continued and they just, started talking amongst themselves and continued the class. And then after a while I figured it out and I could join the class back. But at some point, I think I got really flustered and it ended the class and I couldn't get back and they were all booted out. So back then we didn't have a backup conference. So I just started the next class for week 6 and they figured it out. And after a while, they, texted each other and say, we are now in class 2. So that's why we created now the backup. It's so simple. Even if you restart, you could yourself just add a conference. So you probably wouldn't need to even call Ali in a panic. You could just start a new conference and it would show for the students. And they are pretty clever now by now and figure out how to find the class again,
They will get and when each class starts up, they will have an email notification of when it started that should also allow them to link into it as well. That links into the conference that's going on. So if you are booted out and you say start the back ones, they should get a notification about that in their emails.
And you could actually, even what I've done too, I just at some point gave them, an extra meeting. So I just add a conference, I'd say, hey, I'm on Saturday at 11 a.m., to consult with you guys, you can sign in.
So that's how if we wanted to do office hours or something like that, we could do it that way. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also a way to do it. And then, yeah, I can, if you're having trouble creating it, just let me know what time and date that you want it to be, and then I can go ahead and create that for you as well. And I guess that would connect to the calendar. Was there anything else about the conferences, Jens, you want to interject?
No, I think that's pretty much it. So usually during the class, we tell all of them to keep their video on and to mute themselves. They don't speak. Usually, since the groups are not that big, it's not a huge issue, the muting or not muting, but, courtesy. And then to leave, even if we go in break, that they stay signed in, but mute themselves and turn the video off and return on time. And I think that's pretty much it.
And it also shows up on the calendar too. This also links to all the different assignments. And this is just another way to view everything, both the student and instructors and the due dates. One thing with the conferences after you finish is going to be attendance.
Just for clarification, that sounds like a very stressful situation, Jens, for that to happen. So if your internet breaks up, you can just go back in and join the conference. If you were to hit end conference, by mistake, you would go into the backup conference and create a new conference. Is that? But
yeah, the backup if you go into the backup conference, you just start it. You know, you don't have to do anything. You just click on start and it will allow you to join, and you're fine. Let's say you used also your backup conference, then you would have to create a new one, you know, just add a conference. And it's totally simple. You know, it's basically just there, you know, you just put in your host name, and you can even give it a, you know, an explanation. And oh, actually the host, I guess that is a little bit.
This would probably be something that you like if it's tricky, like more experienced instructors usually set up, but I feel like most of the time, yeah, if both of them don't work, then usually the instructors reach out to me and then I'll go ahead and just create one for you in real time.
Yeah.
And then
Because you have to
that
know,
usually resolves it.
yeah, because we have to know which Zoom channel it is, right? And so that makes it a little more difficult. But we could even tell you which, under which you know, host you have to add a conference. So yeah, but you know, sometimes it happens and you have a bad internet day and your Wi-Fi gets really shaky, and so you just explain it to them. And you know, I mean, I had a period where the Wi-Fi was really bad at my house, and they had to deal with me, you know, at times, you know, disappearing and coming back, and they figured it out. You know, they're used to that.
Yeah, I found like the most of the issues really only come the first time you try to use it, and then after that it becomes pretty intuitive. After the second or third one, like there it ends up being pretty straightforward. And I mean, and then once you get into that, then it's just a regular like Zoom conference. It's just the plugin for the LMS is just the way they have it set up. It's just a little bit interesting because yeah, like since it's each one's like a one-off rather than like an ongoing one. But it's something that we're hoping that they'll address more in the future. So this is our we've been playing around with different workarounds to provide more support to the instructors and the students with accessing this. And should we go into attendance then, Jens, after each?
So in the attendance, I think it shows whenever the students do something, you know, that, so you can basically see also how active they are in engaging with the Populi website and your course.
Or in the residential classes as well.
Yeah, and then, yes, then, and what you can record the attendance there. I think we only need it once, and that is really for the first residential class.
So you go to attendance, yeah, and then, so this popped up because we used the conference. So that blue thing will show up, you go in, you check in, you know, who showed up, and then you would save the participation.
Yeah, and I think in order to record, you click on classroom, right?
Mm-hmm. So you
and
click on classroom. So,
and then you just mark the attendance. And the only time you have to do this is for the very first weekend. So at the end of your class, we need to have the attendance. And again, that's just for financial aid purposes that we have to record attendance for the first on-site, basically on-site class, or face-to-face session. And so it's usually the best way to, and that's usually what I do at the end of the class, that when I'm done, I just, you know, look at at grading their participation, because then my memory is fresh. And the next thing is after the first to enter whether everyone was present. And I usually, I mean, if they are a little bit, whatever, 10 minutes late or so, I'm not really concerned about that, or 15 minutes. Usually that's a non-issue. So the main part is whether they were present or not. And the important part is when you're done that you save it, that you would click save attendance. And I think when you're done and you have saved it, this field changes the color, so it's recorded. So I think it goes from blue to purple, or from purple to blue. I always forget which way. So that's not very helpful.
Yeah, so go purple to blue, and it'll have the it'll be P, and then that will be the folks that show up.
Yeah. So should a student miss an on-site or the face-to-face class, or they miss part of the class, like more than half an hour or an hour, you will have to give them some form of making up for that time. So that's you have to give them some form of a make-up assignment. So that's kind of a pain in the neck when that happens, because it creates just more work. First, you have to figure out, how do I make an assignment that covers what we discussed in class? And then you also have to instruct the students, and then you have to look at the assignment, which is, extra work for us. So hopefully everyone shows up. But I think in the last term, out of 12 students, I had one student who missed one class, due to an emergency. And so it's not and so I gave him a makeup assignment and he didn't do it. So I just gave him a 0 for it, and then we were good.
So I think that's about it as far as the technical side of things, right? And unless there's something else on the instructor side you want to cover?
No, and actually I think we haven't even used the chat function. You could, if people are online, and use the chat. But if you are really in the class with them, you have the Zoom, and they at times use the private chat or the chat on the site to at times comment on something without wanting to interrupt. So we usually don't use the Populi. I haven't used ever a chat session on Populi, but it's an option. I think that explains it pretty much. So usually you just, when you start your class, it's whatever, Friday, 4:50, you want to start your class for 5 o'clock, you just go into Populi and click on conferences and do this and go from there. And I think that's pretty much it.
I have a question. How will that work for Paolo and I? Because at least the first class we're going to be teaching together. So will Paolo be the one that is the one that can do that, or can we both start who's the host, I guess?
Yeah, I think either one of you has full access to.
Yeah, you're both listed as the instructors. So let me go to course. Yeah, so you're both listed as the instructors. So either one of you can start the conference, and then if one of you has already started the conference first, it would be the same thing as before. You would just hit the join conference, and then that'll take you right into it. Yeah. And then you can also switch hosts, like in Zoom, if necessary as well, if there's something that one of you wanted to post or something.
And yeah, so maybe you can just click also on showing, one of the lessons. So to go. Yeah, so it shows you everything, how the first class will be, and then if you go to week second, it's there. If you just go into week 7, can you start the conference from there too?
Yeah, so you can click on the conference page and that will also take you to,
Oh, back there. So you could even go from there.
so there's a number of, yeah, most students it should be easy for most students to find. As I said, it also emails the conference that's going on as well once it's started by the instructors. So accessibility for students should be, yeah, we mostly get more accessibility questions like the first residential from the instructors, but as far as students, yeah, like most students seem to be pretty,
Yeah, they pretty much know.
yeah, they know the deal by now, so. Were there any other questions from anyone else? I guess, yes, we've gone through most, this is the, yes, it's the overview, most technical stuff. There'll probably be questions that'll pop up throughout the course, but yeah, is there anything based on what we just went through?
I mean, the only thing that we hope for is, that students get, some feedback from the instructor, and as we want them to be timely, it would be good to, by the end of the week, to give them some feedback. You might be, because they might post on Sundays and then the week starts, so it might be hard for you to respond then to them, but to do it by maybe the next week or by the next weekend. I mean, the students usually really appreciate some feedback, and I mean, that's what helps them to learn. So it's good to get that. I think similar to the students, as the instructors at times really struggle to get things in on time. I ended up, all weekend still grading and doing it, similar to the students in the last minute. But I think it's much more helpful because you can also see them progressing. Some of them will actually take your feedback, and not all of them, and it's really annoying to have to repeat the same over and over. But then again, I mean, last night I was grading, and I really saw that now that they are in the third term, how their writing has improved, and how their critical thinking has improved, and how they are beginning to, really constructively think about what they read, and how they begin to apply it. So it was a good experience to see that. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it. So this is the course with the 6 students, cohort F, that you will have.
Yeah, and I think, so yeah, and then as far as going back to that again, yeah, I think as far as most, because you're listed in both as faculty, yeah, there shouldn't be any problem with as far as admin access, but if there is, just let me know and then I can adjust things as necessary as well.
And yes, you can both grade and, comment to the students if you want to, or the however you want to divide that, combine that, doesn't really matter.
Yes, and this may be something that could that may be emailed, but if we're thinking, are you still thinking about the in-person instruction for the residential classes, or would that be hybrid, or
We
is there any
thought about that we might be able to do it, but I think it goes more towards now that we think that the summer term will be online rather than in person. There are so many factors still that we would have to work out. in order to really have a safe return. I mean, I know especially your cohort F, because it's their last term, that they really have classes together in this kind of seminar style. I mean, they have some for their dissertation writing, but they would have loved to come back in person, and it wouldn't be so difficult because it's a small group. But then we might have more difficulty with the bigger group. And so then it's easier to say, well, depending on what the decision will be, that we will not return before fall. So we have, no, I mean, this morning we heard about on the radio, the new strain in India, that it's already over here, and that Pfizer doesn't seem to cover it, and who knows what's going to come next. So it's still a little scary.
Yeah. And I had another person that I'm not directly connected to just die this last weekend. So I'm at 31 deaths now.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm also not in a rush to go back into the world.
Yeah. And we basically, you know, of course we want to make that safe for the students, but of course in the same way for faculty too, that you know, to really consider everyone in this and not rush into something. And we have to follow, you know, the Department of Education. So there are federal guidelines, there are state guidelines to consider. There are, I mean, WASC already, our accrediting agency said we are totally free to not return and to stay. I mean, our program is not online, it's not accredited to do online, but for the pandemic, we have a green light to continue with online instruction. So we're good on that side. Yeah, and I think it's sometime, probably May 17th is the question whether it would be lifted, but that would just mean that we would have the option to return. But we'll let you know. So for now, we certainly don't just throw you in there and you have to come in now.
I mean, it's built, we definitely built it fully as a fully online class. And yeah, hopefully from what we can tell by feedback, it's gotten pretty okay feedback. And we've been working really hard to try to really optimize and really try to streamline everything so students can really just look and then understand what's due, what they're going over each week. And it's something that it's actually a new process that we overhauled. So we're really hoping that this, even though this will be the last term as far as online, like even so, like we're hoping to just optimize it even further and try to make it more and more intuitive. And that's where that data really comes into play, because that way we can also see how well students are understanding the interface and engaging with it as well.
Yeah. And they are so familiar with it now, so they know the drill. And I guess for you, as an instructor, it is to also give yourself some flexibility. So if you know that you can change things a little bit in the way you approach it. So if you feel like the energy goes really down, that you know, take a little break with them, or that you use, you know, breakout rooms for them to just talk to each other more.
Yep.
Or, you know, of course, that you can also do like you would do in class, you know, that there's still time, that you just give them time to read something or to work on something for a moment, so that they don't have to just, you know, look the whole time and listen and to the screen. So these are ways. In the Friday class, you start at 5, you do a little bit of a check-in with them, and then at 7 or 7:15 you give them a 30, so there you can have, you know, 2 small breaks and 1 big break. The big break is usually at 7 or 7:15 for 30 minutes. and then they return, and you have the other, after that, the time till 10 o'clock. So usually I do a break at 7:15, go to 7:45, and then they return, and then they have another 15-minute break in between. And so that way you get through the day. It's a little bit harder for the Saturday and Sunday classes, but there they have an hour break, I think, at lunchtime. So sometimes they will tell you, well, we have to have a break, for 15 minutes every hour. That's not exactly true, so they sometimes come up with interesting solutions.
I do need to run.
Yeah. Oh, it's
problem.
already
Yeah, I
7,
think this is the gist of it. Yeah, thanks for coming out, everyone. And I've also posted my email in the chat if you have any further questions with Populi.
Thank you.
Usually available Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then during the residential weekends, I'll be logged in, providing support as needed.
And I guess what we really have to make sure is that you all get your Rice Davis EDU email so that you're easily able to log in. Could they log in with their other email? Or did you set it up already?
I would have to set it up for the other email, but I'll see what I can do. Yeah, let me see what I can do. And if I am, you should get an email about it. But
yeah,
I'll also check in with IT on the stats of everyone's emails.
Yeah, that would be really good if you check in with IT so that we can move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
For joining.
And I don't have an email yet, Allie. Just so you know.
Great. I'll also reach out to IT about that as well. All right.
Okay. See you both later.
All
Okay.
right. Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye. All right.
Okay.
I think that went well, and we did it.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it wasn't too. I hope I didn't talk too much because I just jumped in and.
No. I think it's good because I like I said, like I think the instructor side of things, I don't get as much engagement with that more than the technical side. So I think yeah, having that really helps. Will probably help fill in the blanks about some of the things. So
yeah. All right. Good.
All right. Yeah. So I will reach out to IT and make sure everyone's thing is set up by the end of this week.
I'm surprised that Pratik didn't show up. So gotta check with him and see why. What happened.
Yeah. I mean, if not, we could just do a one-on-one. I should have time this week to do it if necessary. So.
Okay. Good. All right.
All right. Thanks, Jens.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.